welcome to the Next Fix podcast. Got another episode coming to you with a good friend here, Adam Peters. Adam Peters is, we're taking a different spin on the addiction train here. Or at least, tackling the subject matter of addicts and alcoholics and reformed scumbags and so forth. But yeah, this guy, he's got this super chill vibe about him. I'm super excited for this. Adam, thank you so much for being a part of the show today.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah. All right, man. And so, like, what I normally ask is, like, okay, when did the train come off the tracks, brother? We want to know the nitty gritty. We want to know where things were ugly for you, and how you consider yourself a part of this family of addicts and train wrecks ourselves, right? So let us hear it. Let us hear the backstory.
Yeah, dude. So the train came off the tracks for me the day they told me I couldn't be a soldier anymore. And after you find out that you're a career guy, you're at 13 years. You've had one shoulder surgery. You tear it again right after you get cleared to go back to work, and they tell you your career's over. That's when the train came off the rails for me, man. I got moved out of my unit to basically kind of it's a really chill job. It's called range control. You kind of work 3 days on, 3 days off, but it's that's where you go to die, basically. And so for me,
right. Like the pasture, like they're putting you out, like
yeah, they're just getting you out of the unit to make a slot for somebody else. It's weird how the Army works. Like, until you're out, you take out that spot on the books, so they can't really put somebody in your place. So what they'll try and do is find, kind of a temporary duty for you. So that looks like going to work with the civilians on range control. And that was probably the worst thing that could have happened to me, because I was 3 days on, 4 days off. And then next week you'd be 4 days on and 3 days off. Well, that's plenty of time. So
idle hands, right? Like,
yeah,
all right. Yeah.
For me, that's where the drinking started. Obviously, being in the Army as an infantry guy, drinking is just a part of the culture. It's what's expected of you. But I took it to a whole nother level. At one point, I was drinking 2 gallons of Seagram 7 a week, just in my apartment. The first thing I would do when I would get home, man, I had a red 32-ounce Nalgene bottle that I would fill mostly with Seagram 7, right? And then like a splash of 7-Up. That would be the first thing I'd do when I walked into my apartment before I took my boots off, my top off. Like that was the first thing. Oh, and by the way, I would do that until 9 o'clock. Then I would walk the 3 blocks to the bar. I would close the bar every night, and then I would come home. So
you had an itinerary.
I did, man. I was alone and unafraid, man. I had a big problem, and it got so bad that, even my friends, they were all going out drinking with me because I was buying, of course. And it would get to the point where I was going out so much that none of them could keep up. They're like, dude, I have to stop because I can't do this anymore. Right. So, that's how out of control the drinking got for me. I mean, after I had that second shoulder surgery, there was a night I was walking home from the bar. I lost my shit, if you will. Sorry if that's a bad word on your show.
Oh, no, man. We say fuck. We say everything, man.
But I did. I lost my fucking shit, and I ended up hurting myself even more trying to rip a banner off of a fence because I didn't like what it said. Just, dude, like awful stuff. Just drinking myself to death. So bad that I had flown down here to Florida to see my dad from Washington State. And I had to sneak airplane bottles because my dad quit drinking 22, 23 years ago. And I knew I was going to experience the withdrawals, right? Yeah. And so
little side question. What part of Florida? I'm in Orlando.
I'm in Palm Bay. So I'm on the coast. Yeah. Right. I'm a beach bum, man. That's my happy place.
Nice. So, all right. But I get the picture. I know that story of, like, all right, I'm going into a scenario where my consumption won't match my habits. And it's like, talk about anxiety. You're like, I gotta have a move. There's gotta be a move. Right. So in this scenario, your move is airplane bottles. Your dad's sober. Yeah, he's clearly he's got to know you're drinking.
Oh, dude.
I imagine he would.
Dude, I'm getting to that part of the, so I spend the week here, right? And I think I'm like, I brought enough for like 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 at night, like keeping all my trash. Cause I respect my dad. My dad's my hero. Right. So I respect my father and his rules in his house. And I'm like, I don't, even to this day, I won't order alcohol if we're out at a restaurant with him. Like, so at the end of the week, he drops me off at the airport and he gets out of the car as I'm getting my bag out, and he comes around and he's in tears and he said, "Son, you're killing yourself. Please stop drinking."
Oh,
and
shit, man.
For me, it became real when, my dad, my hero, is crying, asking me, begging me to stop. And the first thing I did when I got through security is I go sit down at the bar and I ordered a double 7 and 7. So it went on for about 3 or 4 more weeks till I woke up one morning in my apartment. I'm a routine guy because, military, brush my teeth, get in the shower, right, get ready for work. I brushed my teeth that morning and I get in the shower and I just threw up blood, throwing up blood. And I was like, okay, it's time to stop. And this is where the ignorance in me comes in. I didn't know anything really about alcohol withdrawals, or that they're pretty much the only withdrawals that can kill you. So about a week after that, after throwing up blood, I locked myself in my apartment. I had bought a PlayStation 4 with Destiny on it. And because I'm working this really sham job, like, it's really easy for me to isolate and just kind of lock myself in my apartment and not go to work anymore. And, I was in charge, probably not the right answer, but I did for 30 days straight, lock myself in my apartment and kick the drinking habit all by myself.
Damn. Okay. So wait, but you didn't, dude. So sorry. You didn't have any seizures or how, what you just,
dude, it was rough. It was a lot of pain, obviously the withdrawal, right? A lot of sweats, but no, I didn't. I guess I got lucky. I didn't go through like super extreme, like you said. And like I said, my ignorance, I didn't know that withdrawals were the only or from alcohol were the only withdrawals that could kill you. And, I'm fortunate enough that I didn't alienate everybody in my life when I was drinking. Right. So I did have some really awesome female friends that would stop by in a completely platonic way to check on me. Serenity, if you're listening to this, I really appreciate you coming over and taking care of me, in those moments of weakness. So I did have a couple of people who cared for me left to come check on me, but largely did it by myself, man. 30 days later was good to go. Spent the next year, really 6 months I'd avoid the bar, decided I didn't want, to let alcohol control my life to the point where I couldn't go have fun with my friends at the bar. So then for the next year, I would just drink water at the bar.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then got to a point where I decided like, okay, I'm still not willing to let alcohol have this control over me. So if I want to go out and have a drink with my friends, I'm going to do that. And to this day, I largely just avoid all whiskey in general, just because I don't feel like it's a road I need to go down. But I'll also be honest with you, I don't like to drink at all. It makes me sleepy. I don't get a good feeling out of it. And, that's kind of my story with alcohol. But I just traded one addiction for another, brother.
Exactly. So that's what I was going to say, man. Because like, the reason why you're on this show, and up until like the pregame before I hit record, you let me know that the alcohol it was an issue. Clearly, it was an issue. But the reason why we're talking is for another addiction. And you just mentioned you switch one for the next, which a lot of people that are in recovery, man, they get it. It's like it's like, oh, I'm not drinking, but I'm like snorting pills now. It's like, oh, okay, well, it's just one for the other. But what was yours? What did you get into?
Sugar was the addiction. And I didn't know sugar was as poisonous as it is. I didn't know that you could be addicted or experiencing addiction with sugar. I had no clue. And that would go on until last year. I didn't kick my addiction with sugar until July 7th of 2023.
So let me ask you something. Okay, because I know when I quit drinking, man, I crave sugar like a vampire, man. I still eat ice cream pretty much every day. So I mean, I'm not drinking and doing drugs, but I got issues, still. But like, I mean, dude, do you think that had something to do with it?
Hindsight's 2020, man. I've done a lot of work on myself in the last year. Honestly, why I was addicted to sugar is childhood trauma. A lot of childhood food trauma.
Okay.
that I didn't know anything about, so I'll be upfront with everybody here. I'm one of the pickiest eaters you're ever going to meet. I'm pretty much the definition of meat and potatoes. Like nothing green really goes in my mouth. And I'll tell you, my mom, is responsible for that. I was the kid that had to sit at the dinner table and force foods that I didn't like down my throat. And I mean, like iron fist, like I was not leaving that table. I distinctly remember green beans. I will probably never, ever eat ever again in my entire life. That's the one food that I hated when I was a kid. But I remember a night where I had a mountain of fucking green beans on my plate. And I sat there so long that my milk spoiled and she made me drink it.
Ah, man.
So I've got a lot of issues with food. And I think, we grew up pretty poor in Southern Indiana. So, my mom and dad did the best they could. They split when we were young, and she did everything she could to keep us from our dad, but also, having no money and eating hot dogs and macaroni and cheese as a diet, and lots of lickies and chewies from the grocery store, man, just to satiate three unruly kids who, you're raising largely by yourself of your own volition because you choose to, whatever, that's another story, but we're here to talk about the addiction. So it was cookies and cakes, and, my grandmother was a diabetic on my mom's side. She always had fudge in the freezer, always angel food cake when we would go over there. And then my Grammy on my dad's side, I was always trying to get over there because she made the best chocolate chip cookies in the world. So fast forward to adulthood, right? And being in the Army, keeping it under control, your op tempo is high, so you're active, you're forced to do PT, right? But you get out of the Army and the first thing you do is stop doing PT. You're like, I don't need this shit. I'm not getting up early to go work out. So obviously a little bit of weight gain expected, but then you kick the alcohol and you're just looking for something to escape. And I didn't realize shoving sugar down your throat is a coping mechanism, and it's a default response from when I was a child. Well, I happen to have a wife who's a super taster and a foodie, and she can bake anything, man. And so it's like, it was cake every week. There was chocolate chip cookies every night, and it's like, I have no self-control. I'm just shoving that shit. I'm eating more of that than I'm eating actual food that's good for me.
And you mentioned something. It's like, it did, by the way, like I was raised in a much similar family kind of structure, especially when it comes to diet. Is like, we didn't have much money, and like processed foods and sugars is just like the no-brainer for a parent who's like ignorant and doesn't have much money. And I don't mean ignorant like in a bad way. It's like, I was raised by my grandparents, and they couldn't tell you why bologna is bad for you. They're like, it's cheap, it doesn't spoil, and you're happy. So win. And it's like, oh man, it's a recipe for disaster. But then, you can join that with your story now, and it's very clear. It's like, you are going right down the addict's journey, but you don't know it, because if somebody were to ask you like, hey, could you be addicted to cookies? And you'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You moron. Like, is this heroin? No, shut up and get away from me. But, like it very well can be, and is dangerous. Like, if you don't know and you go overboard, it's a risky path. So that's where you're at, right? And
well, and it's not just cookies and cakes and processed foods. It's sodas, it's energy drinks. If you really, and to your point, right? Like, it's cheap foods. It's what we can afford. And I'm not blaming my parents or whatever, right? Like they just did what they had to do to put food on the table for their children. And in the 80s and early 90s, that looked like a lot of processed bullshit. Right? Like, it was cheap, and it's still the same story today. Right. I just, and I don't blame them for not having an education, because it took me to go out of the United States to learn about what we should and shouldn't be putting in our body, to learn about gut health, to really break this cycle.
Yeah. That's, man, I agree with you 100%, man. And I'm a diabetic. I don't know if the audience even knows that. I don't know if I probably have mentioned at some point. So, all right, but you mentioned going out of the country, and before we hit record, you kind of gave a little hint to that and what that was like. So where did you go and what did you do?
Yeah, man. So I was in a dark place, man. I was ready to check out. I never really had the balls to actually do it, but there was several times there's a loaded gun in my lap. I put it to my head a couple of times, put it in my mouth a couple of times. I didn't want to be here, man. I was losing brothers and sisters left and right to suicide. I have no career anymore. I was wrapped up in my identity from, being an infantryman for 13 years. I just didn't know anything. And all I knew was that all my buddies were going to the VA for their, issues, and they were just getting put on pills and more pills and more pills. And they turned into zombies and people I didn't even recognize. So I knew that wasn't a route for me. I found a podcast called The Sean Ryan Show, which is one of my favorite shows ever, where he does deep dives with special operators is how it started. Now he's getting a little too political for me, but whatever. Anyway, he ends up going and getting hooked up with I think it's the Trevor Millar Foundation. I can't remember, but it's a plant medicine retreat for special operators. And he ends up having a conversation with his wife after that event for him. And I just watched how everything changed for him after that. So I started to seek out my own avenue to go try plant medicine. And originally I was looking to do the same thing that he had done with ibogaine and 5-MeO-DMT. Well, I quickly discovered that a lot of the charities out there that cater to plant medicine for PTSD, TBI veterans are really aimed at special operations forces. And I was not a SOF operator. That's just not how my career went. So I was starting to give up hope, and out of the blue, I got contacted by Heroic Hearts Project, and they saved my life, man. They sent me to Tarapoto, Peru to do a 3-night ayahuasca ceremony. It was a week-long entire retreat from July 2nd to July 7th of 2023.
So Adam, hold on. I want to just slow you down for a second. So this is all new to me, and I am super intrigued that there are not one or a few, but there's several organizations that are helping out veterans through DMT and other plant medicine, and and that also includes ayahuasca.
Yes, sir.
That's nuts, dude.
Yes.
And by the way, I'm actually the podcast show that I'm publishing today is about microdosing in mushrooms, not necessarily ayahuasca, but it's been a hot topic lately. I don't think I can hang anymore. I don't know if I can handle a ayahuasca journey, but I'm kind of behind that for several reasons that I won't get into too much detail. But this is fascinating that there's a movement that I was unaware until a couple seconds ago here that veterans are getting helped through plant medicine. When you say plant medicine, that includes DMT and ayahuasca, and I imagine
psilocybin, MDMA, ketamine. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
So okay. All right, sorry to interrupt you. So
no,
you get contacted with a specific branch of this plant medicine. These plant helping groups, and they use ayahuasca. That's their tool, and they contact you.
Yes, sir.
Where we're at.
Yep. So I do the intake, and integration starts. And man, it's integration. I'm not. Don't quote me on the periods of time, because I really don't remember. But I think there was 6 weeks of integration before you go on the trip, and then 4 weeks afterwards, and that looked like weekly group meetings with to talk about ayahuasca and how to do this. Then you get an actual coach that you work one-on-one with to kind of try and help you. How do I say this? Because I want to be very careful with this, because plant medicine is very special to me, and I don't ever want to do anything to compromise someone's journey. But when you go do plant medicine, it's a bad thing to have expectations. It's a good thing to have intentions. And that's what your coach is there for, is to really help you understand the difference between expectations and intentions. And so that was a lot of work about that. And then you get there and you end up, doing some things as a group that's really awesome. And I only went there with one intention, and my intention was to open my mind to everything that they were going to tell me and participate. That was my only intention for the whole thing. And I'm so glad that I did it, brother, because it changed my entire life. It taught me how to love and respect myself. It informed me that I am not the sum of all of my experiences and that I can move past them. It showed me what I'm capable of and allowed me to move past all that. It's really, I don't know, it's like 15 years of therapy in 3 nights. It's incredible. Wow. And essentially what it did for me is it really, I feel like I was out of balance. Between light and dark is kind of my interpretation of it. And it gave me my light back, man. It put me back in balance and changed my life, dude.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. And I think that those intentions, one, I appreciate how simple it is, because I think there's a lot of power in simplicity. And we oftentimes convolute our experiences. And then when you're going in with like a very simple and kind of a humble goal, right, made it possible and then gave yourself enough room to make massive changes in your life, right? And so, but like the flip side of that coin, had you gone another route, like is the expectation route. And it's like people put so much weight on different things all the time. It's just not wise. And I think I'm right behind you on like have the appropriate intentions and then just, be like, this is what I'm here for, and stay humble about that. Like, hey, I'm here to like learn something, like from someone, and then go through this experience. And what do you know? It changes your life. Now, that seems to me like super extensive. 4 weeks, basic like group work, which I would call that therapy, right? And to kind of like orient yourself and orient everyone participating in a very intense journey, and then that primed you to participate wholeheartedly and get the most out of the experience. And so I think that, again, because I said it's a hot topic, and I've spoken to a lot of people, and they're not all created like that. These journeys. There's fake shamans. I've heard all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah, man. I want to be if you're doing this in the United States, in my opinion, you're wrong. It's just not the setting that you should be doing it in. I went to a place that these people, they study this for years and years of their life. They go into the Amazon rainforest for big chunks of their life, and they experiment on themselves. They learn how to work with this medicine with taitas, and it's I just don't believe in it in the United. It's not legal here, so what they're doing is they're skirting the laws. And I think part of why it worked so well for me also is because it's ceremonial. It's very ceremonial. I went to Tarapoto, Peru, right, and you have a space called a maloca that you go to do this, and you're in the maloca, and the maestra and the maestro, male and female, sit in the center of the circle, and they sing what are called icaros to you. And essentially what they're doing is they're channeling power from what I call the universe. Others will call God. I'm not here to debate anybody's beliefs. I believe that there is a higher power. Nobody's ever going to convince me of that after my experience. I also know magic is real, and nobody's going to convince me of that either. But, if you think about it like a triangle, right? Like, so there's this other dimension that is now reaching out to the maestro and the maestra and to you, and you guys are connected, and they're exercising some demons, man. At one point I can remember, on my third ceremony, there's people going through it, and everybody's experience and journey is completely different. I won't tell you a lot of my journey just because I don't want to I don't want to end up influencing your journey. I want you to go experience your own journey if this is what you're interested in. But at the end of my 3 nights, I could see the frequencies and the colors that the mountains and the forests were vibrating at. I could see dark energy leaving human beings in that room's body. And I know this to be fact because it's confirmed with 12 other people that were there with me who also feel very much the same way that I do. And we've talked about it at length. I'm still in contact with the majority of that cohort to this day. And, my progress is proof enough that this shit works. You know what I mean? I've lost 100 pounds since July 7th of 2023.
Right. So you kind of jumped on me there. So, all right. So you leave Peru, massive experience and life-changing journey that you took down there. A very specific, focused journey into. Well, and
Peru. Can I back up a minute on that because I want to let everyone know where I was at before I went down there. I thought that this shit was crazy. I thought it was woo-woo. I was not open-minded enough to this. A lot of the integration work that you do is mindfulness, it's meditation, it's breath work. I thought all that shit was hokey bullshit. I can't fucking meditate. I sit there for 2 seconds. My mind's all over the fucking place, right? Little did I know things like walking around barefoot in your grass and grounding is meditation.
Oh, yeah.
Little did I know things like origami are meditation, right? Yeah. I have some plants over here. I don't know. You can probably see them in the bottom corner. Gardening is meditation, right? Like I didn't have an open enough mind to see all of this. I didn't know how powerful breath work was going to be, man. Breath work is so amazing. It's something I fall back on every day. So just to let everyone know, I was in a really dark place when I went. My mind was not open at all. And that's why I had to make that promise to myself. I probably didn't participate in as much of the integration before the trip as I should have, but I sure as hell participated in everything while I was there and afterwards.
Yeah. It's mind blowing when you discover that meditation is not like some wildly empty space. Like I feel like it's like, empty your mind. People think that's what comes to people's minds when they think about meditation. They think about this cross-legged guy sitting there perfectly still for hours on end, not thinking about anything. It is an eye-opening, an enlightening thing to know that meditation is most likely not what you imagine. It's gardening. It's being, I think it's like grounding.
Grounding.
It is where you walk, you walk barefoot.
Just walk barefoot in the grass.
Right. And so all of that counts, but people just, they get stuck because I tried it. I tried to clear my mind. And I'm a nutcase. I'm getting up. I'm I can't even sit still. And so I was like, I'm just awful at this. However, I can I jump rope. That to me is meditation. It's a rhythm. It's breathing. And then, I'm at least decent enough. I don't have to focus on it. I'm just breathing, moving, and I have the repetitions, I have the breath, and then my mind just opens up, and then so that's to me a meditative experience.
To me, meditation is the ability to be present in whatever it is that you're doing. It's like, you said jumping rope and physical activity is meditation. I agree. I walk 4 miles every morning and really work on myself and whatever jumbled thoughts I have. It's literally the first thing I do when I get out of bed. I strap my shoes on, hook the dogs up, and we're out. But have you ever seen anybody have a bad day at the beach? You're here in Florida with me, right? Going to the beach is meditation because I'm willing to bet for those that are listening, if you think to the last time you were at the beach, you weren't thinking about anything but being at the beach.
Yeah, there's very little to be concerned about.
So yeah, if you look at meditation like I'm not thinking about anything but what I'm currently doing and where I'm currently at. That's it. That's all meditation is. And it makes it so much more approachable when you think about it like that, because genuinely anything can be meditation. It really, for me, it's just about being present in the moment.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Now I know we kind of jump back, and I would jump back.
I'm
forward.
sorry, man.
Oh no, that's beautiful. I love it, dude. I love it. And so you had mentioned the weight loss, right? So we're talking a lot of spiritual awakening, a lot of mental clarity, things of that nature. But now, I mean, losing 100 pounds is a real biological change. It's like, an objective truth that you have, you created in your lifestyle, a really successful move. That's a lot of weight, brother.
Yeah, man. What that experience did for me, it turned me into a biohacking nerd, man. I took that stuff really seriously. I mean, and we talked about, at the retreat, we talked about things like, paying attention to what is in the foods that you're eating, understanding, how gut health is so important to our overall health. Your gut is connected to everything. And I had a bad gut, man. I had a really bad gut, I'll spare you the details, but like, I couldn't remember the last time I had a solid bowel movement type, gut issues. Right. And, so learning about things like we shouldn't be drinking ice water, right? Like we are not set up as a vessel to receive things like that. And it makes sense. If you think back to when our ancestors, when would they have had access to cold water? I mean, they're going to maybe from a glacial stream, but you're not going to the fridge and getting ice water. So to this day, I drink room temperature water. I don't drink cold water. I don't really drink a lot of cold things. And that's like one of the small ones, other things like particularly with the sugar, people think, just eating fruit is healthy. Well, we've genetically modified fruit so that it has so much more sugar than it ever did in it. So, you can still overdo it on fruit. And then the one that I latched onto the most was the amount of food that we eat today. We have unprecedented access to food for, the last 100 years. We've had unprecedented access to food. And what have you noticed over those 100 years? We're all fat and out of shape. Mm-hmm. And so, I started fasting. I had experimented with fasting before in my life, didn't really make it that long, but I took it serious this time. And I actually just did a post about this, but I fasted something like 7,000 hours last year, of the 8,200 that are in a year. Like I latched on to fasting so hard, and then I started learning about fasting and all the science behind it and what happens inside of your body when you start fasting and how it resets your gut health, and how when you stop burning sugar for fuel, you start burning fat for fuel. Well, a byproduct of breaking down fat is embryonic-like stem cells that then float through your body and go repair any damaged cell in your body, because embryonic-like stem cells can take the shape or form of whatever is damaged in your body. And I started to have less pain. The weight started to fall off, and it allowed me to start walking even more and further distances. And I don't move that fast. I mean, 14.5-minute miles is pretty quick. My wife calls them death marches, but I'm also 6'3", so I've got a long stride, right? Like it's to me, that's not really that fast. But that was it, man. I latched onto the intermittent fasting. I started paying attention. For the entire first year after I was back, I didn't touch sugar at all, completely. Let sugar go. I was so bad about it that if bread had added sugar in it, I wasn't buying it from the store unless it had enough fiber to cover, the sugar. I completely, changed my diet. I was fasting. At my peak, I was doing 20 hours a day every day. And once a week, I would throw in a 48 to 72 hour fast, it's brutal. It's not easy. It's not easy, but the weight just kept falling off. And so here I sit today at 217 pounds.
Nice, dude. Man, you touched on a few things there. They're at the forefront of my mind, because even what you had just mentioned about the carbs balancing out, like the fiber balancing out the sugars, man, I'm familiar. I was a personal trainer, and I'm also diabetic. I have to know now for the sake of my longevity. I have to know this, but I had known about it beforehand. There's so many people that just don't know how to read a food label. And that's sad. I feel like there's been a bit of an effort to make it kind of easy, but I feel oftentimes it's assumed that people pick up what they're purchasing and they know what the heck they're putting in their bodies.
They don't have a clue.
And I feel like it's a little more rare than we give it credit for. People just don't know. And it's not a fault of their own. And then, of course, we could start pointing fingers like back to processed foods and whatever the hell that really started in the 50s. I don't know. Who knows? But the ignorance that most people have, and I don't know everything. I'm just saying the average person doesn't know how much sugar they're putting into their body. And I'm willing to bet they damn sure don't know that the fiber affects the other sugars that are going into the body. It's actually, it's tough and it's sad because here you are, you've cracked you've solved a major problem that I think a lot of people in this country suffer from.
Yeah.
And that's congrats to you for that. That's really badass stuff, man. And now the fasting is always, you said you didn't want to do the religious thing, and we're not doing the religious thing. However, it's been written in many different kinds of religious, the Bible and all sorts of different religions have shown in ancient texts that like going without fasting is a way to all kinds of benefits, spiritually, and then also, biologically. And so, man, I gotta say though, I haven't seen too many, or I haven't met too many people that do the 48 hours and things of that nature. And I can imagine, like you had mentioned, it's hard. And that, dude, I mean, but I also want to give you also credit for doing hard things. I mean, it's like you're going at this, and you're reaping the benefits, and you're getting all of this, these magnificent, weight loss goals knocked down, and that's pretty badass, man. So in solving these problems that many people have suffer from across the country, like what are you doing with it now? Like what's going on now? Are you sharing the plans or what you found?
Yeah, man. So, like I said, I came home from that retreat July 7th, really started working on myself, participating in doing the integration stuff, and decided that, I guess a little background on me. I got out of the Army, ended up going to flight school. So I am a commercial pilot, kind of walked away from that to get my bachelor's degree. While I was doing that, I managed a gun store, was making that guy a lot of money during COVID. He was never showing up. I really learned that I had a knack for business kind of in that point. Got my bachelor's in business and psychology at a choose your own adventure school. That's a story for another time. But really wanted to start pursuing business, and, had several failed attempts, or I wouldn't even call them failed, but just learning experiences in the insurance industry and, on the internet. And when I came back from that, I really got serious about it. And I started my company called The Strategic Veteran, which is a podcast. And inside of that, under that umbrella, I have a paid community that really, I identified a problem for transitioning veterans that, one, we don't transition well at all. We fall in what I call a transition hole, and it's because we lose our identity and our sense of purpose. And I identified that pretty quick because that's exactly what happened to me. And I spent 8 years in that transition hole, right? So started talking to people on LinkedIn and got the opportunity to present to a SkillBridge program, and had about 400 people tell me that they didn't know entrepreneurship or building their own business or buying their own business was an option for them. They had no idea. It wasn't palatable for them because nobody had explained it to them. So I started my company, and now I have a paid community called The Stronghold, where, the idea is that veterans who are transitioned or transitioning can come, they can talk about their transition, what they're going through mentally, physically, emotionally. They can dump that on the community of like-minded individuals who have been where they've been and done what they've done. And they can do that without judgment, because I'm of the opinion that Facebook groups are the worst places, cesspools on the planet. And I am speaking from experience, because when I was an instrument pilot, when I was a student in instruments, I would go to these pilot groups on Facebook and I would ask questions, and I would get ripped to shreds by people with 30, 40 years in the industry. And I'm like, this is exactly, like people don't want to be in this field because of people like that. Right. And now being a part of so many veteran groups on Facebook, because they're everywhere, I see the same shit, and I think they're causing their own problems. I just posted a thing the other day about a veteran who was on a Facebook group talking about, if you're medically retired, stop saying you're retired because you didn't put in your 20. Like, motherfucker, I went to combat for 5 fucking years. I didn't have an opportunity to make my 20. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like I got fucking hurt a few times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and you're going to sit here and tell me that I didn't do as much as you did. I could be angry about it, but what I really want to do is call attention to it and steer veterans away from that. Obviously, it benefits me if they come to my community because it is paid, but that's not the point. The point is you don't have to fall into those traps. So that's a majority of what I do. But because I started all of this, I opened a really awesome door for myself to do some nonprofit work with a nonprofit called QRFup.org. And what QRFup is it's a mobile application. It's a big red button, essentially, that connects a veteran or a first responder in crisis to a mental health care professional licensed in their state immediately. Their job is to de-escalate on the phone as much as possible. Well, we have a contingency if they're not able to de-escalate, and the mental health care professional will make the decision to send a mobile crisis response team to the veteran or first responder's location. And that mobile response team is made up of fellow veterans and first responders.
Oh, wow.
And we launched a pilot in Minnesota. There was 25,000 app downloads, 1,120 lives were saved. Of those 1,120 lives that we saved, only 5% of them had further hospitalization or law enforcement involvement, meaning criminal charges. So we know it works. And that's really where I'm focusing a lot of my energy right now, because I can't keep losing brothers and sisters to their own hand. I lost some really awesome mentors, guys I never thought would take their own lives, guys that mentored me in my career. And I can't do it. There's a better way for us to live, and we don't have to go through all of that. And so through QRFup, it's not just the de-escalation. It's not we just talk you off the ledge and leave you to figure it out by yourself. We're partnered with 180, I think right now, different companies who specialize or have means to facilitate aftercare, whether that's financial help, housing, whether you need an immediate, therapy, not waiting 4 months to get in with a therapist. You're in with a therapist the next day because we've identified that you've got a problem. Cannabis stuff, right? Like, because cannabis is an ethnogenic medicine. It's a plant medicine, and it can be beneficial when used in the right way. I use it the right way now. I wasn't before my trip to Peru. Another addiction, right? Like we experience these things, but the idea behind this is that we as a community, there's 19.6 million veterans in the United States. We as a community are the ones that are going to change this for ourselves. And after we roll this out in November and work out all the bugs, there's plans to open this up to at-risk teens and the LGBTQ community and anybody else. I really believe the nonprofit is going to change the face of mental health care and suicide intervention as a whole across the country over the next 5 to 10 years.
Dude, all of those things are outstanding. And I know, occasionally somebody will reach out to me, and I'm very clear, like, I'm not a doctor. I wrote a book, I got sober, but I'm not the 911 call. I'm not. And there's been people that have reached out to me, and I feel just awful because I'm like, you got the wrong guy. I don't have the tools, and it would be like, it wouldn't be right for me to even try to help you. So my point is that, like, having that button, as you say, like, boom, I need help. And then it actually shows up. That's huge, because these people are reaching out to me because there's no other options. Yeah. They're not reaching out to me because, oh, this guy seems like they've most likely tried other things and they didn't get a response. And I know that when I was struggling, it was hard. I would be begging, that you're in Florida and you're talking about like kind of an intervention with people. They have one in Florida called a Baker Act. Yep. And are you familiar with that?
Oh, yeah.
So I was Baker Acted, I want to say between 12 and 15 times, something like that. Like it basically, but it was cops. Cops would show up and I wouldn't get arrested, but they would say, hey, you got to go to the mental hospital. And basically, if you don't get in the car, they make you get in the car. So, yeah. But anyways, I mean, that is not, it's not hardly an ideal option or an ideal method. And so you telling me that, like, that sounds so impressive. Yeah, I mean, not only the numbers of lives that you guys are accounting for saving, but also, like, the contingency plan, forget about it. I've never even heard of something like that. Yeah, man. Yeah. Our social media director, she calls it a therapist in your pocket. And, I want people to understand, this is for veterans and first responders right now, but obviously this is going to be for everybody. Our founder is an amazing man who lost his brother to suicide after he came home from Iraq, which is why he started this. So, I've talked to, since I've been on with the board, I've talked to, 5, 6, 7 people who are like, some people have talked about creating this. We've actually created it. It actually works. We have Garmin behind us. We have Hulu and Harley. We have partners like Stop Soldier Suicide and the All Secure Foundation. We, CT Fletcher, if you know who he is one of our brand ambassadors. Like, there's a lot of powerful people behind us. So that's my main effort now is I need to find 20,000 responders so that we can get this launched nationwide. We can work out the bugs. And like you said, this all came about because 988 is the suicide hotline, right? Everybody knows that. They got $700 million and they still drop 54,000 unanswered calls a month. How is that possible? Yeah. We're doing this self-funded with Ram's money. He's $50,000 into this, and they're already helping people. So I can only imagine what we could do if we had $700 million coming at us too, right? For the nonprofit, it would make all the difference in the world. And I think the difference is we're, most of the board is veterans. Ram is a Marine. I was Army. Mark and Miguel, both also on the board, both served. I think that's the big difference, right? Like we're just go-getters, and we're going to make this happen because it needs to happen. We have lost 150,000 service members to suicide. We only lost like 17,000 the entire GWAT. We've lost more to suicide than we did to war. Yeah. That's just a tragedy of a statistic, all right, Adam, I'm going to put links and everything into the show, but let everybody know where to find you. This super intriguing things that you got going on. So yeah, man, go kind of rattle off where's the best place to go to find out more about all of this? Yeah. If you want to find out about the strategic veteran stuff, the strategicveteran.com, it'll tell you everything you need to know about the community, the newsletter, the podcast. And what I'd really like everybody to do is, if you know a veteran or first responder that's willing to volunteer some time to be a responder or a mental health care professional or wants to get involved with QRF Up, that's the one I care about the most. Please go to qrfup.org. The website's not the prettiest right now. We're ironing out some bugs, but there's 3/4 of the way down the page. There's a spot that says become a responder or mental health care professional. And we need 20,000. We need 20,000. It's so many people, but I know how powerful this can be. So qrfup.org, thestrategicveteran.com. That's the best places to find everything that I'm doing. And that's my whole life, man. That's awesome, man. Well, it's a badass life, at least in my own opinion. So, all right, guys, thanks for listening. Adam, thanks for being a part of the show. Until next time, guys.
Thanks for having me.